having done a couple of videos already on the perpetrators of the two most violent and evil snuff videos that have ever made their way onto the internet, that being the videos about Luka Magnotta and the Dnepropetrovsk maniacs, I was sitting wondering, where exactly do you fucking go from there? And after a day or two, it dawned on me that while I might not be able to find anything relating to murder quite on the level of those people videos on my channel, if you fancy checking them out, the next best thing, is a terrible choice of words, the next avenue that would maybe sit right alongside those in terms of sheer brutality would have to be Britain's worst ever pedo. So without any further ado, let's jump in. Richard Huckle was born to your average Joe middle class family on the 14th of May 1986. He was educated at the Harvey Grammar School in Folkestone, that is somewhere in England, I have no idea where, and he was described by people as well as friends and colleagues alike as a bit of a loner, but nothing overly abnormal, not the type that would stick out as any great criminal, shall we say. However, the guy wasn't an actual recluse. He did attend a month-long expedition to visit a school in Namibia before leaving school to study at the college in South Kent, as well as being a regular attendee and worshipper at the Ashford Baptist Church. As far as I can recall from my reading up on this dude, he was also part of the church in London. So he got out and about, he kept quiet, he kept few friends, but you know, he wasn't that total black horse at the back of the room. He just didn't turn too many heads. Huckle spent a gap year in Malaysia from 05 to 06, returning regularly to help out at local churches and among the local communities before moving there permanently in 2010. The Malaysians would go on to call him the devil that hid in the church in the aftermath of his crimes and the public announcement of his tirade of abuse on children, eliciting much disgust, anger and despair in the press over there, as well as social media. When looking for somewhere to go to carry out his horrendous acts, and multitudes of them, it's believed that he actually specifically chose Malaysia because there's an apparent general lack of child sex crime there compared to local regions or neighbouring countries, say such as Cambodia. So the idea of this Western white man moving over wouldn't look like anything too out of place, and it didn't turn too many eyes. I suppose in that sense, he kind of not only knew what he was doing, but he was, for lack of a better word, clever about it. However, one quite crazy thing to note is that after Huckle was arrested, after the abuse was made public, some from Malaysia or Malaysian nationals actually came out online to point out the double standards inflicted on Huckle, because in certain scenarios and instances, child marriage is not actually outlawed over there, and so how can you really berate Huckle for his behaviour when other people are getting away with similar actions? I think it's good to note here that as much as the age of consent in Malaysia, I believe, is 16 or 18, and the age of marriage is 16 or 18, I forget exactly which right now, it does come down to the fact that this is a predominantly Islamic country, and in certain cases Sharia law will be called upon, and the marriage of minors to adults actually will prevail. As recently as 2018, outrage ensued after word filtered through of an 11-year-old female marrying a 30-year-old male. However, keeping on track, let's keep it on Huckle. All of the crimes he eventually was convicted of took place in Malaysia, although he did travel to other countries in that region of the world, Southeast Asia, such as Singapore, Laos and India. Once he was there, he enrolled on a short course with the British Council to attain a certificate in English language teaching to adults before beginning work as a freelance photographer in the local communities within Kuala Lumpur. It's been revealed that he persuaded a pastor to invite him to an orphanage in Bangalore to take photos and videos of the kids, posing as a teacher to gain trust. So I think it's pretty apparent already that Huckle was in complete control and knew exactly what he was doing. He's identified a region where he will not stick out as a paedophile. He's also identified different ways in which to gain trust, but not just that, how to get close to children, close to adults around children who may then bestow upon him some form of responsibility and due care. So already it's blatantly apparent that this guy knows exactly what he's doing, and that he's probably spent a wee bit of time planning this one out. Now, before I actually get to a list of the crimes that he carried out, as well as some of the most depraved aspects of his personality, as if having a proclivity to carry out sexual activity with children wasn't the most extreme point in his personality. There are some truly chilling things that he said and thought in the way that he acted that put this beyond just, for lack of a better term, the average pedo. Some of the things that I've found out through reading about this guy I've never heard anywhere else, and I suppose that's how you end up with the moniker Britain's worst ever pedo. So Huckle had been identified as a user of a dark web network of pedos called the Love Zone. This site was run by a care worker in Australia called Shannon McCool. There's not much you can actually find out about Shannon McCool upon a quick first search. I don't even think that guy's got a Wikipedia page, but it's interesting to note that the whistleblower on Shannon McCool was actually bullied by co-workers initially for the insinuation that he could be this type of person, even though the whistleblower had identified behaviours or little quirks that led her or him, not sure, their identity was kept secret, to believe that Shannon was a paedophile. But also the whistleblower was initially dismissed by authorities as well, so whatever evidence or thoughts they'd taken to the local cops, that was basically thrown out, which is unfortunately a shocking failure on the part of the authorities. That almost reminds me actually of John Lynn, who was murdered and dismembered and so everything else by Luca Magna. I'm not going to go on about that again, you can check that video, but the failure on the part of the authorities not to follow up on some investigation work done by non-police types, to dismiss that, and then that leads to further death, further abuse. It really should be looked at in itself. However, once police were onto this network, the Love Zone, they actually assumed the identity of McCool after his arrest, and in an unprecedented and unusual move began running his website as a mean to catch many child abusers. The authorities went on to rescue 85 children from ongoing abuse at the hands of these fucking animals, and arrested hundreds of paedophiles, I imagine, around the globe. That website no longer exists. According to Wikipedia, it's not like I want to look for it. Huckle stood out though on this network of pedos due to the extreme number of victims he had racked up, as well as his attitude in posts on the network. So once Huckle was identified, the authorities done a wee bit of digging on social media. I figured out who he was exactly, and then through a little more police workings and work from the authorities there, they realised that Huckle was actually due to be travelling back home to England around about Christmas time, and that word was transmitted to the UK that that was going to be the case, and that the police should be there to make the arrest. So Huckle returned to Gatwick Airport, London on the 19th of December 2014 and was arrested on site by Britain's National Crime Agency. They were tipped off from a highly specialised unit within the Australian police called Task Force Argos, who deal specifically with investigation into online child sex crime, exploitation and abuse. Huckle initially refused to answer questions, and he was bailed pending he conformed to the condition that he resides at his parents' house, while all the digital data was mined from the peripherals that had been seized by the police. So this was a laptop, a phone and a camera. And due to the absolute mass of data and files that Huckle had on these peripherals, it was going to take a lot of time to analyse that data. But due to Huckle actually having no priors, no criminal record, and not being in a position of responsibility with kids here, he was granted his temporary release. So Huckle goes home and he proclaims his innocence to his parents initially, but then he eventually tells them the truth, and lo and behold, even a face a mother couldn't love. He gets kicked to the fucking curb. The parents kick him out, hardly surprisingly. It's one thing that really fucking sticks in my mind, actually, when looking at these types of criminals and types of people in general, that when you get a parent that sticks by them, but doesn't just stick by them, almost makes excuses for them or is in absolute denial about it, that in itself blows my fucking mind. Again, even just thinking back to Luca Magnotta's case and his mum, her head is so far up her fucking ass about it, it beggars belief. Anyway, so that's how Huckle came to be arrested, identified on a network on the dark web, tracked down through social media, and then arrested at Gatwick Airport after a tip-off from Australian authorities. So Huckle would actually share, I don't know if all of them, but certainly a lot, a fucking shitload, of his crimes and abuse to the Love Zone dark website, boasting that he had, in quotation marks, hit the jackpot, a 3-year-old girl as loyal to me as my dog, and nobody seemed to care, as well as saying impoverished kids are definitely much easier to seduce than middle class kids. These two quotes alone are so unbelievably fucking heinous, and it really just goes to show that this is another case of one of these, the idea that if someone was to say, oh, this guy's just a fucking psycho, or he's just a nutter, or he's clinically unwell, he sounds like he's very, very alert and clued in and completely aware, and to be able to distinguish between different types of children and be able to talk about loyalty and these different personality traits, I think it shows that he knew exactly what was going on. he used to grade himself pedo points on this site, and that was in relation to the severity of the abuse that he was dishing out. He would speak about watching a child grow from 5 to 12, because this was a 9-year campaign of fucking rape and terror. This went on from his initial stint in Malaysia right up to his arrest. And in there was one instance where he actually spoke about being able to compare the bodies of a 5-year-old and the same child as a 12-year-old. And he spoke about this in a kind of awe-induced manner of like, just to see that happen and to be part of that and to have that relationship was something truly fucking special. Absolutely fucking sickening. He also created a pedo manual that was encrypted when the police found his computer, but it was apparently, it was reported that it was ready for publication to the dark web. That manual was titled Paedophiles and Poverty Child Lover Guide. Again, the idea of somebody going psycho and going on a rampage or a tirade or whatever you want to call it, there's a difference between that clinical moment of insanity, I think, and I ain't no fucking educated genius, fucking expert on any of this, but if you can take the time to create a whole manual about something, I would say that you're pretty fucking clinically fucking sane, even if you're one of the lowest pieces of vermin to ever walk the fucking planet. Many stratagems were employed to procure victims. He would take kids on day trips from orphanages. He would take kids home from their own fucking birthday party. And although I have not read or heard any specifics relating to those sort of scenarios and instances taking place, I think it would be fair to assume that while on these day trips or while taking a kid from a birthday party back home, he would probably make the time to abuse them, to create these videos and content for the dark web. One victim was even raped while wearing a nappy, because it is imperative to note that this dude raped and abused children from the age of 12 years old right down to 6 months. He even talked about marrying one of his young victims so he could set up a foster home and, inverted commas again, abuse a cycle of children that would end things, that would come through his foster home, which would basically, in his mind, turn paedophilia into a full-time vocation. Again, 100% fully fucking aware of what he's up to, what he's doing. And one final little point that I've noted down regarding this part of my video is that he even used crowdfunding to source the money that would fuel his abhorrent fucking lifestyle, which truly boggles the mind. I mean, the audacity, the balls, to be on the internet sponging money from people so that you can buy the equipment and buy travel cards and or whatever, to travel around a whole fucking region of the planet molesting children. Truly special in an utterly vile, disgusting way. Again, that's how you get the moniker. It's how you attain the moniker Britain's worst pedo. They don't dish that out to fucking just any old fucking pedo. Unreal. So, in the end, he was charged with 91 offences and convicted of 71 of those. Those were counts of serious sexual assault on children ranging from, like I said, 6 months to 12 years, while posing as a teacher, photographer and devout Christian in Malaysia. that last one just got me thinking right now, actually. How exactly was he going to marry a child in Malaysia to set up a foster home to fuel a continuous cycle of abusing children? Like I stated earlier on in the video, from what I can gather, those sorts of marriages in the country only take place under Sharia law. So, was he going to convert to Islam? You know, I think through everything that was spoke about and everything in contemplation, it would seem that he was pretty clever about what he was doing. You know, he knew what to act as, who to speak to, where to go. He knew how to procure these children. But how a Christian would go around marrying that child, I don't know. There's nothing that I read suggested that he was contemplating a conversion to Islam. But if it is Sharia law that allows that in these countries, or doesn't allow it, but you know, it's in the fucking the gutter of the country, I suppose, in the dark streets, in the background there, you know. I wonder if that was something that he was thinking about. Anyway, the prosecutors at his trial managed to unveil 29 child victims, and these were 29 victims that they had photographic evidence of, although they believe there could be up to 200 all over Southeast Asia. The reason they believe that, and they're not entirely 100% sure because the authorities were unable to access encrypted areas on his laptop, but he also kept a ledger. In fact, it was in the ledger that he assigned his pedo points on the brutality of his abuse. But in that ledger, there were notes of up to 200 different children. Huckle refused to give them the passwords, and I would say that by refusing access, it only incriminates them even more and lends to the idea of there being many more victims. I think someone like this, I think it's probably impossible to know the exact number, and the idea that the 29 were them all sounds to me implausible, very unlikely, improbable, whatever you want to say. So the reason that he was only charged with 71 of the 91 offences, and that those 20 further offences lay on file, is because the overriding or overseeing judge believed correctly that there was enough evidence to secure a conviction, and that there would be no need to show any further evidence to the jury and to put people through the trauma of watching and looking at all this child abuse. I think that is probably a good shout. The charges included 14 counts of rape on children under 12, 5 counts of digital penetration on children under 12. I had to actually look up what digital penetration meant. I wasn't sure. I thought it literally meant something to do with like videos or something, you know, but it doesn't. Digital penetration literally means fingering. So 5 counts of that under 12, 31 counts of sexual assault under 12, 6 counts of grooming a child, 13 counts of taking and making indecent images of kids. There were 20,000 images on his laptop. 13 counts. I wonder if that means 13 different children, 20,000 images. 1 count of advertising indecent images of children, and 1 count of arranging, facilitating child sex offences. I'm not entirely sure if that means that he was going to whore out a child, or if he was trying to bring another paedophile to him and a child. I'm not really all that convinced it matters. So fucking reprehensible. It really is truly fucking unreal. On the 6th of June 2016, he was given 22 life sentences with a minimum term of 25 years before being able to apply for parole. Can you imagine this fucking piece of shit ever having been able to apply for parole? That was not a misuse of tense. We'll get to that. The idea that someone like this could be rehabilitated and put back on the street, I refuse to accept that that could be possible. There's documentaries or such on Netflix with Louis Theroux, and on one of those he goes to what's basically technically it's called a rehabilitation centre for paedophiles, but really it's just a big fucking prison with nothing in it but paedophiles. And in that he talks to a couple of beasts and they talk about being rehabilitated, but I just don't believe that can happen. I might even do a little video talking about my thoughts on that, because to me paedophilia is not exactly like just a hobby you take up. It's not like something that you it's not like a mistake you do when you're drunk, you know. It's more your sexuality, it's more your sexual proclivity, and I don't think in 2019 or 2020 now we would get away with saying to say a homosexual, oh, we need to rehabilitate that out of you, you know, we need to make you straight. So I'm not sure a paedophile could ever be rehabilitated. I think it would always be there. And really at the end of the day, that then means that even if you accept that as a truth, 25 years sitting in a cage and then being released, well, have you learned your lesson? You molested 200 children, 29 for certain. Have you learned your lesson hard enough that although we know you still want to abuse and fuck children, we believe you're not actually going to do it? Because that to me kind of sounds like what you would be saying, or what we would be hoping for. Anyway, Richard Huckle had a statement read on his behalf by his defence team. How you could fucking defend this cunt. How you could defend this motherfucker. I mean, whoever he's fucking... Philip Sapsford. You fucking son of a bitch. His lawyer, Philip Sapsford. Do you not have could you not make your fucking money doing a better job than defending this fucking cunt? Huckle said, I really understand and acknowledge the true scale of damage it caused to the Malaysian community. I had hoped to escape this mundane life of solitude in the UK, yet was overwhelmed by the attention I received in Malaysia. I completely misjudged the affections I received from these children. My low self-esteem and lack of confidence with women was no excuse for me to use these children as an outlet. I am open and eager to rehabilitate from this offending behaviour. I don't want to become a martyr to sex tourism in Malaysia. This was all my doing as a consequence of my immaturity, and I'm truly remorseful. It took a second for that statement to sink in when I read it yesterday. I actually read it yesterday for the first time. I found out about Richard Huckle probably a couple of years ago, and I had to go back and look at all this again just to refresh my memory. Everything in that statement I'd never heard before. And it is so full of so much fucking nonsense. This was a doing as a consequence of my immaturity. I mean, I'm immature, you know? I mean, I took my daughter to hospital for a checkup appointment a month ago, and me and her, she's only 8, we were playing a game of bogeys in the hospital. And If you don't know what bogies is, it's basically where you take turns at saying the word bogies, and you start by whispering, and each turn you take turns to get louder and louder until you're basically shouting. And we never quite got to that. We were in a hospital, but the point is, you know, I'm with my kid, I'm a bit immature, we're being a bit daft, we're having fun. Immaturity does not lead to fucking molesting 200 children. Lack of confidence with women. I don't have any lack of confidence with women, girls, women, whatever, anymore. When I was younger, when I was maybe 15, 16, 17, I was a lot quieter. I wouldn't say I lacked confidence, but I was quieter around women, and I didn't have the confidence to speak to them like I do now. But it doesn't mean I was away abusing a whole barrage of children. It truly is a mundane lifestyle of solitude in the UK. Just go to the pub, mate. You know, if it's that mundane, if your existence is mundane, spruce it up. You know, and not this way. Like, take up go-karting, take up fucking ice hockey, take up boxing, take up anything apart from going on a 9-year reign of terror molesting children. Philip Sapsford is QC's lawyer, asked the judge to take into consideration his client's young age. How can you even say such a thing? I want you to take into consideration my client's young age because he would have been, what, 20 fucking 2, 25, something like that. That's not a young age. He was fucking molesting babies that were 6 months old. And the fact he had no previous conviction. I mean, how do you sit and defend this cunt? I wonder if Philip Sapsford has any children. You don't even need fucking children to understand or to comprehend just how vile this is. He also quoted from a psychiatric report that said Huckle had limited sexual experience with women and suffered depression as a teenager. So there you have it. There you have it. Philip Sapsford. Virgins, free reign raping fucking children and babies. Limited sexual experience with women is an excuse for fucking babies. Philip Sapsford, you should be ashamed. He suffered depression as a teenager. That is just cause for molesting babies. Philip Sapsford, you're a fucking piece of shit, mate. You might not be Richard Huckle level piece of shit, but you, sir, are a piece of fucking shit. Anyway, that is pretty much all I have on Richard Huckle, the UK's worst ever pedo. It's damn near gave me a fucking headache having to talk about this, and the fact it's went on for almost 33 minutes. I was kind of hoping I would have managed to batter through this in 10 tops, 15, but that isn't how it goes. This story will end on a little bit of a happy note. But also anticlimactic, because on the 13th of October last year, Huckle was stabbed to death after being strangled in his prison cell. Police said they're treating it as suspicious. Like, they're treating it as suspicious. The dude was stabbed to death. Did he fall on a fucking rack of forks? Of course he was fucking murdered. Of course it's suspicious. Ironically, or I think if I remember correctly, his fucking cellmate also was a fucking beast. Maybe, or at least a rapist, actually. I think his cellmate was maybe a rapist who had one case of sex with a minor who was 15 or something like that. So another stand-up citizen, eh? Please hear the sarcasm. Anyway, the last little quote, or ad-libbing anyway, is that somebody had said along the lines after Huckle had been stabbed to death that 1,000 deaths were too good for him, and I agree with that. For someone with this long list of crimes and the level of sheer brutality and evil, completely and utterly evil. For him to die after being stabbed to death, it almost feels like he got it easy. And that will be my last thought. Auf Wiedersehen.